Hello, and welcome to Burning the Couch, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on the mental health systems and other systems that claim to help us and ask, who are they really serving and who do they fail? Do they really help us? Or is it a select few? So, I'm your host, Brooke Diana. I'm located in Rochester, New York. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, but now turned into a trauma doula. I am a coach and guide to help others liberate themselves from abusive relationships, traumatic environments, and step out of the shadows from the systems that oppress us. So we're going to get really real in this show here. We're going to talk about what happens, just in the therapy room, hence the title, Burning the Couch, but also about what happens in courtrooms, on crisis hotlines, in the medical system, in the justice system, all of it, and in families even too. Because here in our society, and especially in Western culture, the systems were built and they were meant to oppress us. They're all working as they should, but we're going to really talk about, do they help us? They're supposed to protect us, but oftentimes I find that they don't. And as a therapist, I've felt very helpless over the years. I'm also a domestic violence survivor and a single mom. So I talk a lot about my lived experience through that, intertwined with being a professional. So this first episode, obviously being the first episode, is especially close to my heart, but let me tell you why. Today, I'm introducing you to my co-host, and drumroll please, no, I can't even say their name yet, to that point, because they were actually once my client. They're no longer my client, and this is going to be hella controversial. Burn me at the stake, please. But before you even jump to criticizing me, please listen. So why did I choose to have my client be a co-host? Well, this client, unfortunately, has gone through domestic violence similar to I have. But this relationship, the best way I can describe it, felt just like almost like divine intervention. As cliche and cheesy as that sounds, but just the coincidences and synchronicities that were popping up between her and I that I literally could not even tell her about being the therapist, right? I wasn't open about my personal experience most of the time unless it was applicable to her survival and escape. It just, I don't know. It felt too divinely guided to be true. And I truly believe that her and I, our stories together, could truly make major impacts in reform for the mental health system, the justice system, and more. Because if you haven't lived through domestic violence, I don't know. You just really don't know the depths of hell that this nightmare puts you through. So together, I just think our stories and interviewing other stories could be really impactful. And we just hope to have others feel less alone. Since that really was the overall theme, even for me, being the therapist in that power dynamic, both my client and I, the common denominator was just the shame that being fearful about our humanness and the ugliness of survival kept us silent. And this client's truly inspired me to claw my way out of the depths of hell of this. And she hasn't known. And today I believe the gift is I really want to tell her how she's made me feel and how she's empowered me. And how did I get here? Well, let me tell you that part of it. Please give this first episode a listen. Earlier this summer, I got really chastised for having a GoFundMe and struggling in posting on social media about it. And reflecting on that, that is just an example of how the mental health system's ethics can be oppressive. And we'll talk more about that. And incredibly misogynistic. But that's not today's episode. But that event sparked this whole new idea for me and actually liberated me. I still have my license today, but I was contemplating for a long time, is this for me? Especially after reflecting on my experience in my marriage, doing a lot of deep, deep inner work the year after escaping my abuser, being like, I don't know if being a therapist is fully long-term my life's calling. And so this podcast is a piece of creative work and also my co-host and friends' work. I think creativity is a huge tool for survivors to help in their healing process. And we both agree that this is definitely a space that mutually is going to be beneficial for us to share our stories and then therefore hopefully help to share others' stories, other survivor stories. So we both want to break the silence and cross the lines the system told us to never cross. We both want to break the silence and cross the lines the system told us to, created totally out of authenticity and honesty. It is very grassroots. I'm recording here just on my like 2017 MacBook. I don't even know how old these headphones are. Probably from 2012, 2013, but I'm praying to God that this microphone does its job today. So, my co-host and I both have walked through the fire of domestic violence. I will share a little bit about their story here. My co-host is going to be anonymous for right now, given their current life circumstances with their survival or their safety. So, but the beautiful part here of this relationship, initially, yes, therapist to client, and you know, I helped to guide her out of the depths of hell of a nightmare of a domestic violence situation as a therapist. And through our conversations and work together, I witnessed so much bravery and growth. And as a therapist, I could never express, and I didn't. I did not express, like, hey, me too. I'm going through this at the same exact time. Oh my God. Like you would with your your best friend. No, as therapists, we can't really interject our life stuff unless it's, that's a big spectrum for therapists of how much they open up to their clients about and disclose personally. And, the big rule of thumb though is it, benefiting the client at all? And we need to check in, and is me opening up about my life, is that going to like harm them or make them think differently or really impact, obviously their treatment and their well-being? And I made the clinical decision for the majority of our initial work together, obviously not to bring in my stuff. And I was really just escaped. But also to need to monitor, is my stuff, like I'm going through a domestic violence situation, how is that, impacting me and my unconscious biases here? And I was very, very careful of that and did keep that back into the back of my head at all points in time. Not just for this client, but all clients, right? But I think what I honor myself in and pride myself in and my skill set is that I think I can really compartmentalize what's going on in my personal life and trauma and not have it show up in the therapy room. And in my experience with this whole GoFundMe debacle back in July, having hundreds of therapists judge me and make comments to me, DM me on social media, criticizing, you shouldn't be a therapist if you're in a trauma, if you're escaping domestic violence, if you've endured financial abuse or other forms of abuse, that's definitely impacting your work. And it really honestly pissed me off because I was like, 99% of these people messaging me don't even know me, don't even live in the same state as me. A few were local here to Rochester, and they definitely wanted to critique me, shame me, give me lessons on how to be better. And could I have been better in different ways as a therapist and a human? Sure. We'll get into more details about the GoFundMe in a later episode. But what it came down to was that I had to post a GoFundMe because I was out of work for various circumstances I could not control. And as a business owner, I don't have sick time. I don't have paid leave. And during financial abuse, I don't have a ton of savings stocked up. So I had to post a GoFundMe. But I can compartmentalize. And actually, told all of these therapists, I'm actually doing better than ever. This trauma is not impacting me to the point where I'm completely biased in telling all my clients about it and trauma dumping and being mentally unwell. I'm not. I think us as humans, especially in America, are going through a collective trauma every single freaking day, and we still have to show up to work, right? And us as therapists are also still human and have lives, and I think there's a lot of shame if you're not perfect, you're not, completely professional, you're not a blank slate. So, anyways, I believe I have a high awareness, self-awareness that this will never be a full issue, and often if I do bring up my lived experience to any client, I will put that out there of like, I'm bringing this up because I think it could be helpful for this reason, but we're human too, right? And I think that's what the mental health system gets wrong. So we believe that we have to be perfect and not have issues impacting our lives, and that's further from the truth. If you're seeing a therapist, they have their own lives. Are you meant to be their therapist and support them through it? No. I have my own therapist, I have my own support team. And I hope all therapists do as well. And again, we're all human, and there's some therapists, I'm just going to say, that aren't meant to be therapists out there that are therapists. There's some crappy therapists out there. Burn me at the stake, please. But there's some amazing therapists, and there's a lot of therapists I talk to that are scared shitless to be imperfect online, or maybe post something wrong or say something wrong, or just, they need a mental health day. I think my GoFundMe was an example for a lot of people that was a wake-up call. Like, oh shit, I wouldn't want to be in your position. So the conversation today isn't going to be about a therapist and client anymore. It's about two women who refuse to stay silent and who are now burning down old narratives, the ones that continue to keep survivors isolated, abusive systems enabled, people disempowered, feeling dismissed, being judged, and being shamed. We're done. We are done and want to help liberate others from those chains. So, in this episode today, I'm going to be discussing with my co host and sharing with her my gratitude and from the other end of the couch, her impact on me. And this is something that I've never shared with her. And why did I make this decision to do something like this? Well, it's been gnawing at me. And I feel like I've been seeing a bunch of just like universal signs in my way that we need to do this together. And that sounds so, I know, like delusional, delulu, as the kids call it, and out of the box. And I'm sure therapists are having conniptions about this right now. If you are, this is not your podcast. But sometimes we really got to cross these lines to make a change, especially for abuse survivors. But I just could not, you know, be blind to there's so many overlaps in my co-host story and mine. And there's actually a lot of details that initially right now we won't be disclosing for her safety. Again, this is more for her personal safety, not HIPAA. I'm not creating a podcast with every single one of my clients. I wish. I love chatting with all of my clients, I do. But this individual's story was just so unique and mirrored so much of what was going on in my life. And eventually it got to a place that I couldn't keep that from her, I guess, in a way where in the ethics and training, certain reasons we are told, we probably shouldn't work with clients if like their story is too close to home and it is really activating and traumatizing. But at this point, even a year ago, it was like this was more of a coaching role versus a therapy role because also therapists aren't supposed to be like coaches and give advice. But when escaping domestic violence, sometimes it really has to be hands-on of like, you got to do X, Y, and Z. And eventually I had to be very transparent of like, listen, very recently I've gone through the same exact process. And why do I know all of these specific details and have, all of these really specific recommendations? Because I went through it and I can't hide it. And we had a conversation of therapeutically in the ethics, I can't be your therapist. However, the relationship was just so valuable, I think, to her, but also to me. I would be lying if I said, did not leave a tremendous impact on my life and to witness what she was going through in such an intimate way. Like, what's next? Just in my heart of hearts, I don't know. Something told me this is more than just a goodbye. Long story short, we did take some space away from obviously like any kind of client, coach, professional therapist role and reflected on what would be best and decided whatever we want to call it, like mentorship, friendship, co-host on a podcast, even if like, 10 people only listen to this, the goal is at least to help just one person feel less alone. And she's fully on board. I'm not coercing her into this. We've discussed it at length for a couple months now. So this podcast is for anyone who's ever felt left down by a system, mental health, medical, court, even your own family system, the educational system. But we're going to talk a lot about mental health and how this all impacts our mental health and well-being. And also our own opinions on how dangerous DSM-5 is. So we'll continue to talk more and more about that in all of these episodes. Here's episode 1, chapter 1 of how we found each other in survival and why we're here. Burning the damn couch. All right. Diana is now on the screen and has joined us. I'm just laughing because your name is not Diana. I told the audience that for just safety reasons, you're anonymous. When I recorded the first part, I had no idea what name you're going to be changing it to, and you're Diana, Princess Diana. Hi, how are you feeling about being here and being a podcast co-host?
Um, it's pretty wild. I never pictured this for my life, to be totally honest. So it's just like I'm sitting here and it's almost a little bit like out of body now that we're doing this. Like, wow, this is happening. This is really like cool. I'm a bit nervous, but really, like I'm just excited.
Cool. No, it feels like we jumped to a different timeline. I didn't expect to be here either, buddy. No offense. I'm really excited that we're here together. But man, if you told me 5 years ago, 2 years ago, even hell, or like baby grad school me, like I'd be violating, putting in air quotes, some ethics here, I'd just totally squirm and probably want to faint. Um, But now I guess I'm much more in the YOLO fit phase of my life after going through what, been through with domestic violence. And I know we've talked about it at length for you. Yeah, we didn't picture our lives to be here, but here we are together.
Yes. Here we are.
So, all right, now this might be a bit emotional. I sat this morning and just kind of meditated and thought about all the feels that I have experienced working with you over the last, gosh, I can't even tell you how long it was, but you know how pivotal you were for my journey, um, going through my own crap, similarly but different in a different timeline. As a therapist, we can't obviously express this for a lot of reasons. I'm not totally a crazy therapist that's going to trauma dump on my clients as much as maybe other therapists think I might. I don't, at least. And if I did, please tell the audience. And then I guess we have to not do this podcast. But I don't think I've expressed any of this to you, even, even though we've like met personally, as friends and now business partners. Yeah, how do I want to say this? So a lot of feelings were coming up for me this whole time, but especially this morning, writing down in my journal, really putting it pen to paper and saying it because I don't get the opportunity to express this to really any of my clients of the personal impact. So it's an honor to be able to hold the space and tell you. You were one of the reasons that I kept going in my journey. Didn't realize I was going to cry right away.
Oh
um,
gosh, the tears are coming.
I did a lot of my own work and my own therapy to keep my shit together and contained. But I just know in those moments for me, initially escaping abuse, it was really, really dark times. But I had to just keep showing up to work and stuff, right? Because the bills got to be paid here. But truly, not just you, but all of my clients really were a grounding space and a human space just to connect with healthy people and counteract all of the things that the abuse told me at home that I was a terrible communicator. I was too emotional. I was immature. I couldn't help anyone. And I don't want that to sound egotistical to anyone listening that we're using my clients to feel like I could help people, right? No, but genuinely, it just in my own way helped for me to validate like I was none of the things that the abuse told me I was. Oftentimes, I was in awe of your courage and bravery and openness to listen because I think a lot of people in abuse are often in a lot of denial. I think I was for many years. If someone told me I was in an abusive situation, and I know that was a few months into our work together, really identifying it for you, like holy shit, like seeing you being like, okay, as hard as it was to, I mean, like totally uproot your life. So oftentimes I felt like if you could do it, I could keep going. When oftentimes like you want to be like, I just want this over, not to say like suicidal or anything, but I know that those dark days, you don't know which way is up. So it just had a lot of hope that, things could get better. And there was many parts of your story, like talking to just complete strangers. I remember for me, but also for you to like have those validating moments that other people could see you too,
Yeah.
and see the humanity in you. And it just gave me hope that like there's good people out there, and just had a lot of gratitude that you could have those moments of like feeling that humanness again, your courage and bravery to keep going despite just your personal circumstances outside of your relationship or not didn't feel supportive. So we've talked about those parts of your story just really kept encouraging me like, okay, you know, despite all of that, it really fucking sucks that you have to be so resilient, but you were. And I think, I don't think people understand the amount of like pain you go through in the darkness and isolation in this. There's so much like specifics I want to say about your story, and I can't and I won't, obviously, for safety reasons here. I think we will keep talking and being able to share more specifics in my gratitude and in different moments how it impacted me. And more recently in your journey and, different parts of like the legal system, it's been actually exhilarating to watch you kick ass in different ways. Yeah. Like being able to stand up for yourself and find your voice has helped me to keep doing that in different ways. And you can keep kind of pushing your own boundaries that on my end in different ways is push me to be more open, whether it's social media or, I mean, create this space and take this leap of faith here, or have boundaries with my own family. So I don't have like an eloquent way of saying it, and I'm speaking broadly, but I just have tremendous amounts of gratitude for the strength and courage your journey has been, and seeing you go through and still go through really shitty, stressful things and feel like, especially in different ways, the legal system has let you down. But you've handled it with so much grace. In a way, it was very, I guess, healing and validating for me on my end. And I don't know where I'd be right now. Our paths somehow magically didn't connect.
Wow. Um, I'm going to try to do this without crying because I have a
Oh, you're
hard
good.
time talking while crying.
If you need to take a moment to.
Being totally honest, I really had no idea that I had an impact on you. I guess it makes sense at the same time because I've spent almost a I'll just say almost like a decade in therapy at this point, several different therapists. You are, I think, really the only one where I felt truly seen. And just for the record, like I never felt like you were trauma dumping on me or anything like that. But I guess, sharing the parts of your story while I was going through it was completely monumental to me. Because I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think in our situation, it's the validation and like the connection with someone else who really understands, because
Hmm.
there's so much shame,
Hmm.
self-doubt, your life is on fire and you don't know which way is up. I can honestly say that I would not be here without you, without a doubt in my mind. Whenever like we meet or we talk after every therapy session we had, like I've always just felt such enormous gratitude when I was like literally alone and I felt like I had nobody and I was really going through this shit. You were there. That alone did more for me than like the previous, decade of therapy ever did. I'm just so grateful to have like had you come into my life, and the way that you weren't afraid to share pieces of your life with me was just, I mean, life changing.
No,
Yeah.
thank you for holding that space, and I guess made that therapist judgment. Oftentimes because I knew one, previously being so alone in it, I think honestly, you probably were one of the first people besides my therapist for me to truly disclose some of those details. So I appreciate you holding them with grace as well. Even though, like, that's not your job as my client. Don't expect that for clients, no matter what I put on them, even if it's something that they don't like or that doesn't land for them. I want them to be honest with me, but I shared those, and some of those parts can be really like shameful. You just question it. You should judge yourself because when you're in it, it's just this nightmare you can't escape. And I knew that at least sharing it, hopefully my intention was to help you, and I'm glad I did because I share openly on social media now because other content creators did and helped me to understand what the heck was going on. But you were the one, our work together helped me to keep sharing my story and beginning to write a blog and then slowly open up more and more and more to people and on the internet. So you were a big part, a huge part of that for me.
Wow.
Just because I know how shitty it feels to be doing this alone, not just the abuse, but different parts of life, or even if you have people, or it's a part that like other therapists all the time. It's not just me. I'm rolling my eyes here of like they always are like, don't go above and beyond or don't self-sacrifice, which like I know I can't like be everywhere and everything for everyone at once. I wish I could just be a mom to everyone. I guess I don't know. It's literally in my birth chart, but I can't avoid it. But I think too, it's like that's why there's a big shift for me, shifting more into different roles. Like hopefully like this podcast reaches others when we start to share things and interview other guests that have different and similar experiences to us. So like at least one person feels less alone.
Another thing I'll add is I guess you've been a really big inspiration for me as well. I've always been very introverted and not having a lot of self confidence and not speaking up even when I wanted to. And just the like, are we allowed to swear? I don't know.
To swear, swear.
Like, I just want to call you like, just like you're a badass. And like, it's really inspired me to like, I don't know, speak up more. I've even in like limited social media have like just shared like a little bit, which felt like a mile, but
Yeah.
just some small details, just because I really share the sentiment and um, the just wanting other people to have it, if possible, easier than we did, to just have that community to just rely on. Because I know for me, one big piece of why you were so helpful to me was that and I think a lot of us are just very self-critical, and I would always judge myself, especially like in my situation where it was like really like a 180, where like you were pointing out things in my relationship that like I saw completely differently. And when you would share like your personal experience, it pointed out me being too critical on myself, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You would tell me about your experience, and I would have no judgment towards you and be like, wow, like
Mhm.
you are so strong and powerful. But then if I'm in like, when I'm in a similar situation, just self criticism would
Mhm.
just be so overpowering. And like with previous therapists, we would focus on tools to like try and like help me, which I don't want to like completely knock that. Like
No.
I've had some like really good like tools and things that I've been given over the years, but
Hmm. Hmm.
just hearing somebody else, I guess, go through it and like gone through something similar, it gave me an immense amount of hope. Like, hey, if Brooke can do this, maybe I can do this. I'll just put it bluntly. That's what saved my life, to be completely honest with you. I'm still like in shock a little bit that I had that much of an impression on you, but I'm just, I guess, glad
Yep.
that I also helped you.
Yeah. Thank you. And I guess the nature of the business of therapy, I do get to see your progress because you're therapist, right? Like, I'm like, hopefully there is progress that we can know noticeable progress. But again, an honor. Thank you. I know like you're sharing a lot that is in the therapy we've not processed and at a deeper level. I know that we talked about it helped and could see like the light bulb moments go off. Because I just think like even going into grad school for being a therapist, like I just want to be a human to
Yeah.
human, and that's what helped me in my darkest times in my entire life was like people that could just be empathetic. Some of the stuff that therapists give out just don't work for me, and maybe that is because of I've had boatloads of trauma of similar nature since like, probably in utero. Um, that I'm like just like these skills workbooks don't work for me because I already know these things, but I just right like I feel this way or like there's not enough resources or support to help me change things that are causing me to feel this way. And I think like that's I see that in people that it's like systems in relationships and jobs and family and other things that like make it impossible to leave. And I have so much like gratitude for you and the universe for you being able to escape. I think there's a lot of people out there, women out there that for a variety of reasons can't or
Yeah.
don't see how bad it is. Because I have a lot of gratitude for my previous therapist where I think I was in therapy for 5, 6 years. And like I love therapy and like the self-awareness does not mean you're mentally ill, everyone. If you go to therapy, we'll talk about that. That's like a whole other 10 episodes. I was grateful, like how they pointed out to me that my relationship was abusive and dangerous, but I just felt so stuck with, okay, now I know it's bad and I need to leave, but how? I'm financially trapped. I don't have supportive family. I don't have a great income or whatever. Like all of these things in my mind. And just, I think, especially working with other survivors, like it's going to be raw and gritty
Yeah.
and ugly compared to others. And others will flinch at your story. Because I've also had therapists that have just like looked at me and just like blink a few times after I share this much of my life story. And I'm just like, shit, you're not my therapist then for me. If like that makes you uncomfortable and you want to give me a deep breathing exercise, it's not gonna fucking work. I'm drowning and I need a life raft, and you just gave me a pair of goggles, is what it feels like.
That's such a good it's such a good analogy. Man, yeah. Um
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
No, I guess that's why I'm pretty cringy and raw on social media for those that follow. I just think if people can connect to your humanity and see their stories and yours in different ways, even if it's not exactly domestic violence, like I think that's the deeper medicine than a workbook or a group therapy that just tells you how to like advocate for yourself better, but like be a good girl and don't have feelings. Gets us nowhere. And that's what I think our systems thrive off of is like this good girl fallacy and don't have feelings and take meds to suppress these feelings and like be uncomfortable. We're so uncomfortable with big emotions and feelings. And like it's been generations. It's not just us, it's our mothers, grandmothers, so on and so forth that have been oppressed in so many different ways for just in our entire lineage that is in our bones and in our nervous system. And when we have abusive things done to us, our system's set up to keep us silent and over medicated and believing we're the problem. And I think that's across the board in every single abusive relationship, especially for women. It's all weaponized against us. We're constantly judged, no matter what we do. Like because I have a nose ring, because my if my hair is short or long, if my house is not fully perfect, right? Like if you tear up, like you're as a woman, you're constantly battling a million judgments, no matter what you do. So you're constantly at this place of like, fuck it, fuck it all, burn it all down, burn every single system down because it's built off of oppressive, misogynistic standards. So
yeah.
that's why we're here. Princess Diana and I have not set up a whole episode schedule. I think we need to our next business meeting. But I think I don't know. You tell me what if this you think maybe it's a good flow. But episode 2, we might want to talk more specifically about experiences in therapy, like how maybe crappy could be and dangerous. I guess the place to start there more officially.
I think that's a good idea. I know I don't want to like spoil the next episode or whatever, but like I know my therapists all had good intentions, but like it could feel pretty gaslighting at times. I'll just say this. You said even unborn having trauma and being into this world and having immediate trauma. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what it ended up doing for me is just twisting my whole body and nervous system in a pretzel, essentially,
Yeah.
and taking all these prescribed medications to make me essentially cope
Yeah.
with shitty situations without addressing the shitty
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Just not numbing out. You don't feel we talked about it, but I'm assuming when you were all in those states with all those different meds, you didn't feel good.
No, no, like just completely numb. No, No, like just completely numb. Like, I'll just briefly share, like, for a couple years, like, I didn't cry once, and there was like
Hmm.
traumatic shit that happened. Like, and I would still like feel my emotions, but they were so dampened. Yeah, like you just
Yep.
don't experience life.
And I guess given the political environment here, and just to clarify, I'm being a bit snarky, but did you ever once think of grabbing a gun and shooting up a school, being on all those psychotropic meds? So,
No,
okay. Okay, just
no.
to clarify for the world, I don't think those are a major factor. Anyways, that's a
Yeah.
whole other topic. Leave that
Oh,
over
yeah.
there for a second. But just wanted to clarify for the audience, if anyone that's still listening is wondering. Okay, thank you. I think our next podcast episode is I want to throat chop your therapist. But that was my feeling about hearing your previous mental health experiences. So,
Yeah.
anyways, we'll leave you there, everyone. So,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Diana. Also, I'm gonna have to totally bleep out some of these parts if I called you by your real name.
I was like trying to keep track of it. I didn't hear
I
it.
think I did once, but anyways, Princess Diana, thank you. I'll get creative and funky fresh with, called you by your real name. I'm gonna have to get used to this one. Man. So, listeners, thank you for listening. My business partner and I have really got to get this organized, but we'll maybe an episode a week or something if this becomes a hit. Please
Yeah.
like, share, subscribe. Maybe down the road, Princess Diana might reveal her face and real name, or might not. We
Yeah.
might roll with this, or I don't know. All right,
Yeah.
and follow us. It will be available on where you can find your podcasts and on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and whatever the heck else I can upload this to.